On this edition of Lexington Now, wildlife at McConnell Springs, the Bluegrass 10,000, and Esports. I'm Neil Noah, and welcome to Lexington Now for the week of June 14th, 2021. We begin this week with part one of a new series, Wildlife at McConnell Springs. This week, Stephen Rogers talks about the snakes and insects that can be found there.
My name's Stephen Rogers. I'm Recreation Manager. I've worked at McConnell Springs for 7 years now. I have a background in Parks and Recreation and outdoor education. My degree is in Parks and Recreation Administration. My first full-time position was as an interpretive park ranger, which involved a lot of environmental education and a lot of outdoor programming, and that really fit in well with the position here at McConnell Springs. And so in my current position, I get the opportunity to work with people in the public, manage the park, and do a lot of environmental education programming. Most commonly, the snakes that we see at McConnell Springs are garter snakes, black rat snakes, and then actually even earlier today we saw a milk snake. So all those snakes are constrictors. We've never identified or positively identified a venomous species of snake at McConnell Springs. So in Fayette County, the only venomous species of snake that we should have here is going to be the copperhead. Copperheads have been identified in more rural areas. They don't do as well in areas like McConnell Springs that are surrounded by a lot of development. So they need larger areas, larger populations to hunt, larger spaces. So the animals that we see here, the snakes that we see here, are all constrictors, non-venomous. I always tell people, even if you think you know what species it is, you want to leave the snake alone, just observe it from a distance. Typically when people see a snake at McConnell Springs, they see it very quickly, just going across the trail. Maybe it's basking and you spook it and then it goes off into the woods and pretty much disappears once it gets under the tree line. But the snakes are pretty abundant here. Mostly the garter snakes are smaller species, so they survive by eating small insects, slugs, any small animal they could catch. Black rat snake is our largest snake that we have in Kentucky lengthwise, so they can be about 8 feet long, and so they're a pretty long snake. So they're mostly going to survive off of catching mice, rats, small rabbits, even a small squirrel. We see probably thousands of species of insects, more than I'm qualified to identify, and a lot of the more interesting insects that you're going to see at McConnell Springs will be in the evening time, fireflies, butterflies during the day, moths. So we have a couple of areas designed for pollinators. So we have our rain garden, we have a few landscaped areas, and our meadow area that have pollinator plants to try to attract insects. And so you can have a really good opportunity to see dozens and dozens of species of pollinators around those areas. We do have an active beehive at McConnell Springs, so we have a honey beehive that's managed by a volunteer from the Friends of McConnell Springs. We're anticipating getting a second hive soon, and hopefully if that works out well, then we'll actually be able to produce honey from McConnell Springs within the next year. And so the beehive's very active. We see natural bees that you would find here, like mason bees, wood boring bees, and just dozens and dozens of species of insects. We regularly have programs that focus on the wildlife at McConnell Springs. A lot of our junior naturalist programs, regular reoccurring programs, will focus on different animals and different species of animals and wildlife in the park because it's so abundant here, and it's one of the more interesting topics that people want to know about. And so that's what we typically try to focus on and make sure that we're teaching people about what's going on at that specific time of the year as far as the wildlife goes. So in June, our Junior Naturalist program will focus on pollinators because June is Pollinator Awareness Month. And so it's a good opportunity to learn about monarch butterflies, other pollinators, obviously the bees that we have at McConnell Springs. So we've got a lot of interesting things that we're going to be able to show and a lot of cool things that kids can take away from that program. For more information about the park that you may want to find about the wildlife, you can check out lexingtonky.gov and the McConnell Springs page. And then the Friends of McConnell Springs website has some really good, interesting information about the wildlife. And I would recommend people check out the McConnell Springs Flickr page. We have some beautiful shots on our Flickr page. So if you just search McConnell Springs Flickr, there's some beautiful shots of plants, wildlife, and even some of the events here at the park.
Be sure to tune in the coming weeks for this continuing series. The Bluegrass 10,000 is back with a few modifications. Here's what to know.
The Bluegrass 10,000 began in 1976, so this is our 45th year. Last year, the 44th year, we only ran virtual, so this year we really missed it. We wanted to bring it back, and in previous years we've had many spectators. We've had an award ceremony down at that classic loop on Richmond Road where you do a U-turn to come back in downtown. We usually had the Young at Heart band playing some bluegrass music to kind of cheer on participants. But this year, because we still want to do in person, but we need to remain socially distanced and safe, we will not have spectators, we will not have the award ceremony, we will still give out the awards, and we will still get to run in person on Saturday, July 3rd, and we are capping it at 2,000 people. We normally have about 4,000 runners that run through downtown at the Bluegrass 10,000. So we are also doing 12 waves of 175 people approximately to continue our social distancing, spaced apart 3 minutes apiece. In order to socially distance the runners, but we still get to run downtown and do our classic loop all the way out Richmond Road, turn back around to get our 10K in. We also have our 1 mile fun run, which we will run around downtown as well, and runners or walkers can participate in that fun run. So we have runners from elite 6-minute, 5-minute miles, all the way to people that are more like my pace that are 12-minute, 13-minute miles. But right now, we also have in our first wave wheelchair and hand crank runners. And so we do have awards for all of those divisions as well. The awards are divided by age and also device. If they do a wheelchair or hand crank, we have awards for those. And then every 5 years, we have the age groups, beginning at 16. The cutoff date is actually the 29th of June for in-person running, but I think it will probably fill up before then. And virtual can sign up all the way to 4th of July weekend. Good Times Racing is our timer, and John's Run Walk Shop is also doing a 10K training program. So you can sign up through them as well, gtraces.com, or lexingtonky.com will take you to that run sign up page. Everybody gets a t-shirt, and the t-shirt design this year is retro to flash back to that 1976 year that we started running. And so it has kind of a retro, muted colors feel. They're really cool. Everybody from virtual, fun run, and in-person Bluegrass 10,000 racers will receive a t-shirt. So you can go to runsignup.com and look for the Bluegrass 10,000. You can also look on our Facebook page. We have a Bluegrass 10,000 event there.
When we come back, esports. Welcome back to Lexington Now. Parks and Recreation is offering a new activity that has been exploding in popularity, esports. Here's Clyde Dean.
Esports are the competitive version of video games. So What we're doing is we're looking to take video games to the next level. We're trying to give people an outlet for competition, but indoors. So we are going to start off with sports games. We're looking to start with Madden, NBA 2K, FIFA, and Rocket League. And again, we're just looking to give people, students, adults, anyone really, an outlet to compete in video games. Right now, we do have Xbox One, we have PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and we're going to introduce some computer games. It's based on what games are on each console. So we are going to have games like League of Legends. We are going to do a lot of MOBAs and a lot of strategy style video games in our later seasons. So we have 3 age divisions. We have 6th grade through 8th grade. We have high school, which is 9th through 12th, and then we have a 18 plus for all adults. So right now, the leagues will be a 8-game season with a tournament afterwards, and that's for the sports games. When we introduce League of Legends and some of the other strategy-based games, we will run more tournaments rather than leagues. Since we are in COVID restrictions, everything's going to be online based. So you would have to have the video game, the console, in order to register and play that game. Post-COVID, hopefully, we are moving towards trying to get a game room. And with that location, we want to give people an opportunity to come play who don't have the games in consoles or can't afford the games in consoles. I want this eSport program to appeal to everyone. It doesn't matter if you're physically athletic or not. You know, a lot of video games, you're using your mind and your thumbs, and I think that's something that everyone can do. You know, I want the middle schoolers to be able to say that they're, you know, doing something competitive, even if they're not doing something physical. Same for high schools, same for adults. I want the eSport program to eventually encompass, you know, a lot of the internet safety. I just want it to be a safe space. You know, I want middle schoolers, I want high schoolers who are being graded a lot on certain, you know, things in school. I want them to use eSports as an avenue to, you know, get better grades, to encourage them to, you know, be better in life. If you want more information, go to our website, lexingtonky.gov, and just search eSports in the search tab. Just click on the eSports tab and we'll have all current information for you.
You can find all the parks information you need on the city's website, lexingtonky.gov/parks. Did you know that in Lexington, most construction projects need to be dewatered? So what exactly is dewatering and why is it necessary? We asked Roy Berger.
In construction, you have excavation of pits and you have excavation of trenches, which normally is below the groundwater table, and also floods during the time of stormwater events, and it has to be dewatered. The dewatering of that creates sediment, and you cannot discharge that sediment directly to the stream, so therefore you have to do some type of treatment. A typical dewatering is what we have set up here. You dewater from the trench or the excavation into some type of filter bag, sediment pond, or straw bale barricades. And that filters water out and takes the sediment out and lets it go back to the stream naturally. Sediment bags is a geotechnical bags that you pump the water in. It filters the water out and then lets the clean water either go through the vegetative strip or back to the stream. Silt fence, you can put that into a basin type setup and line it with straw bales and so forth, and you can pump into that and it filters out the sediment. Basically it's a pond, and you pump the water into the pond, which is the most common method, and it spreads out and slows down, allows the sediment to settle out and the clear water to run out the other end. Sometimes one sedimentation pond will do it. There may be a series of sedimentation ponds. But what a sedimentation pond does is lets it spread out, settle, and then discharge out the other end. You can either run them in single or series. Sediment bags, you can run them in series. They're more conducive to linear projects like line light work, so forth, because they're easier to move. You can use them in conjunction with straw bales, vegetative strips, and so forth, and they're much easier to maintain. That is an area it's got a lot of vegetation that will allow the water to spread out and settle out in the vegetative area and then clean the water before it goes back to the stream. They have to be maintained. They cannot be just put in and forgot about. No one option will work for any one particular construction site. You may have to use a series of these options for construction sites because most of the line work is moving, and you can't put a permanent structure in for any type of settling on a moving project. Under the RMP, each resident project representative has to note on his daily reports that he's looked at the dewatering operations and everything is working properly. If there's any variation where it's not working properly, that has to be documented. And also they do a weekly inspection for ESC. All these methods can be found on the Lexington Stormwater site, and the forms can be found in the project construction section of the website. It varies from project to project. The worst thing you can get into is a project where you've got a tunnel going on or grinding rock and so forth, because the rock dust is harder to eliminate. The best thing we found is sedimentation ponds for the rock dust. We're just trying to keep the Lexington streams clean and safe and unpolluted.
Many urban county government meetings are still happening virtually, but we bring most of these meetings to you live. Check out our website for the most accurate and up-to-date coverage of city business. And we continue to keep you up to date on how the city is handling the pandemic via our official COVID-19 response site, including testing and vaccination sites. Simply click on the banner at the top of our home page. That's all for now, but as always, you can keep up with us on social media. Check out the latest traffic updates on Twitter at LexRex, or catch our live traffic cams on LexingtonKY.gov. For all of us at Lex TV, I'm Neil Noah, and that's it for now.